The good news is that more sponsor money is being put into podcasts every day. We actually just hosted a recent event called Podfest Masterclass AI and Creator Tools Summit. And one of the speakers, she makes six figures each year from sponsorships for her podcast. And as I like to say, the riches are in the niches. She has, I think, like chemical show essentially. So she works with chemical companies to get sponsors for her show. And like, but the crazy thing is, like, she does not have the biggest audience in the world. But the thing is, these companies know, like, if they have budgets to spend on marketing and advertising, why would they put $10,000 into a random TV ad when they have no idea who's going to be watching that ad? Versus if they're like, how can we specifically get in front of people who are working in the chemicals business? Oh, this podcast talks specifically about that. We should connect with her and sponsor her show. So definitely the trend is always like being niche with your show, with your content, however you can. You increase your chances of getting sponsors, therefore monetizing.
Welcome to PodBiz, the money behind the mic, where we get into the business of podcasting. I'm Norma Jean Belenke, a podcast and media strategist.
And I'm John Kiernan. I'm a podcast producer, and we're asking the question that's on everyone's mind. Where is the money in podcasting?
Each week, we talk with podcast industry professionals, marketers, and creators who are turning podcasts into a thriving business and making the industry what it is today.
With real revenue, real strategies, and real results.
If you're looking to grow or scale your show, and of course monetize, you're in the right place.
So let's get down to PodBiz.
Today, we're speaking with Andrew Weiss, Director of Partnerships at Podfest Expo. We'll be speaking about the independent creator economy and the benefits of monetization and what they are outside of advertising for independent creators, some book recommendations on how to get your mindset right as an entrepreneur, and what goes into producing such a large-scale creator event as Podfest Expo. Let's get down to PodBiz. Andrew, how's it going?
Doing good. Thank you for hosting me today. I'm super excited to be here.
We're so excited to have you. So straight off the bat, Andrew, where's the money in podcasting?
That is the right question, Norma. So when it comes to money in podcasting, there's a lot of ways to approach it. And what I like to tell people is that podcasting should be used to supplement your business as an extra way to generate trust, to generate more clients. You shouldn't just use it as a way to, oh, once I launch a podcast, then I'm going to make money. Yes, people can make money from podcasting, but if you start something just from scratch to only make money from it, then it's a little bit more difficult versus already having an established business you can use. But as far as money from podcasting, there's affiliate codes you can send out. There is new clients you can get from the podcast. There's merchandise you can sell. There's a sponsored ad reads you could put into your podcast. So there's really, I know a guy named Jason Allen Scott, and he talks about there's 37 ways to monetize your podcast. So, but you definitely want to use it in a way that helps supplement what you're already doing versus trying to start things from scratch. But obviously it's possible to start from scratch too, but everyone's on their own journey.
Yeah, absolutely. And you work directly with Podfest Expo, which is one of the largest creator in-person podcasting events. So you're really seeing things from the front lines of working with a large community of creators. So it makes a lot of sense, when we're talking about monetization, it's not just that ad side, right? It's not just, hey, get your download numbers up. It's you are a creator, and what else do you have in your life to build that brand, right? Are you a coach? Do you have your own business? Do you want to increase your professional profile? I think that that's a really important aspect as well. With my clients, I work with a lot of brands, a lot of creators that are increasing their footprint in the space. And it's not necessarily black and white, very formulaic. There are aspects of that, but it's really a holistic approach of what are your goals and how do we get there? So I think that that's a great point as well. Well, Andrew, tell us a little bit about how you got into the podcasting industry and how you ended up at Podfest Expo.
Yeah, so that's a crazy story, actually. So I grew up with an entrepreneurship background. My father's an entrepreneur, and at a young age, it was really cool to see what it's like to not have a limit how much money you can make per year, to set your own hours, to work when you want to, however long you want to. I'm like, oh, that's pretty cool. So I've always kind of had that in the back of my mind. And then in college, I studied business and advertising at University of Oregon. Go Ducks for any other Duck fans out there. And out of college, I actually got invited to teach business skills to high school students. And so we would run a summer camp each year and teach them how to start their own company, how to pitch their idea to investors. And I worked for that nonprofit for 3 years, and I developed my sales skills, giving over 1,000 presentations within 3 years. And then essentially after doing that for a few years and helping to scale that nonprofit, I decided, okay, you know what? It's time to do my own thing and become an entrepreneur. And so I did the a stupid thing where I just jumped ship without a plan and just went, you know what? I'm gonna figure it out. And it took me, 6 to 8 months. I was doing public speaking coaching for people until finally I decided to do my own event called Fight the Fluff, where I hosted a bunch of coaches and people to talk about how to monetize your brand virtually, essentially. And based on the success of that event, one of the speakers actually connected with the founder of Podfest, Chris, and they just happened to be talking that day. And Chris is like, "Hey, do you know anyone who knows how to use the app called Hoova and knows how to run virtual events?" And Tyler Bassu's like, "Yeah, this guy Andrew Weiss knows how to do it." And so Chris and I got connected, and this is during the pandemic in 2020. So he went from 2,000 people in person in March 2020 to I don't know what to do. So we decided to go after breaking a Guinness World Record for world's largest virtual podcasting event in 1 week. And so I took my entrepreneurship, marketing, operation skills, and we successfully pulled it off to bringing over 5,000 people virtually together in August 2020, and then rebroke that record in August in 2021 with 6,000 people. And then, so I got introduced to the podcasting space in 2020. And then after being in it for a couple of years, I decided to launch my own show called Rapid Results with Andrew Weiss in 2022, and have been with Podfest ever since. So that's a crazy story how I got involved with everything.
Yeah, absolutely. I remember when that happened. And, Chris founded Podfest. I think that, he's just a force in terms of really empowering and enabling creators to have that community, which is so important. Now, because you work independently with podcast creators, and then you also have this aggregate bird's eye view of a lot of the creator economy in podcasting on the front lines of Podfest Expo, what are you seeing in terms of monetization trends for independent creators out there?
Yeah, when it comes to trends, the good news is that more sponsor money is being put into podcasts every day, and so we actually just hosted a recent event called Podfest Masterclass AI and Creator Tools Summit. And one of the speakers, she makes six figures each year from sponsorships for her podcast. And as I like to say, the riches are in the niches, because she has some kind of, I think, like chemical show, essentially. So she works with chemical companies to get sponsors for her show. And like, but the crazy thing is, like, she does not have the biggest audience in the world. But the thing is, these companies know, like, if they have budgets to spend on marketing and advertising, why would they put $10,000 into a random TV ad when they have no idea who's going to be watching that ad? Versus if they're like, how can we specifically get in front of people who are working in the chemicals business? Oh, this podcast talks specifically about that. We should connect with her and sponsor her show, essentially. So definitely the trends is always like being niche with your show, with your content, however you can. You increase your chances of getting sponsors, therefore monetizing. And yeah, there are people who are, of course, getting new clients as coaches for their podcasts all the time by bringing on various guests, by doing collaborations and partnerships. So it's really cool to hear those kind of talks, but it's always cool that hearing the creative ways that people are monetizing their podcasts. Trying to think of like one person, he uses his podcast as a way to like get in rooms that he wouldn't otherwise have access to. And so just really recognizing that if you don't have a podcast, then you're missing out on big opportunities.
Yeah, absolutely. A lot of the lead gen and to start conversations that you really want to be a part of or having is that guesting strategy as well. I love that you brought that up. And what is it? The riches are in the niches.
Yes, riches and niches. I think Russell Brunson came up with that quote. But yeah, it's a great
It's
quote.
fabulous. And I think it very much applies to podcasting. There are a few independent creators I can think of who make six figures from a very small but dedicated niche audience for their podcast. And so that's always really great to hear as well.
Well, yeah, no, 100%. And that's the beauty of podcasting too, is that you want to find a brand that aligns with you, with your content, with what you have to offer. Like, We have another guy, like his podcast was talking about basketball, and of course, he was able to get these sponsorships to help sell like basketball equipment and basketball gear. This other guy, he started his own network. He's out in the Philippines. We actually hosted a Podfest Asia to expand our brand
Yeah,
internationally.
Ron. Shout out to
Yeah, Ron.
Ron.
Yeah, Ron with Pod Machine. And so yeah, he started his own sports network, and he partnered with a sports betting company. And so there's a lot. The answer is you got to start somewhere. And as Chris says, start ugly. So just get going. Yeah.
Oh, I love that. Start ugly. I mean, I think there's so much pressure, especially in media, that we all have to make it be perfect, right? It's you got to have the perfect clip, you got to have the perfect episode, you got to have the perfect setup, you have to have the perfect microphone. And I think that done is so much better than perfect. So for any independent creators out there, you can always refine later. And of course, it's important to start out, with a strategy and with a plan, but things can change as your show changes, as your audience develops, as your goals change. It's always important to have that flexibility and to be kind to the journey that you have as well. I think that's such an important thing to say as well. Just so many nuggets here. I keep wanting to say, riches in the niches. I want a shirt.
Yeah.
I want a shirt
Yeah.
that says that. It's so good. It's
Yeah.
so good. Well, Andrew, what would you say is maybe a key move or metric or even a mindset that's made the biggest impact in your career or success within the podcasting industry?
Ooh, that's a good question. One of the things I tell myself the most is that you are the average of the 5 people who you spend the most time with. And yes, and so your environment really shapes who you are. So it's your responsibility to be aware of, like, what are you listening to? What are you eating? What are you consuming? Like, what are you exposing yourself to all the time? And if you're aware of that, then you can recognize based on that, like, how your life is going to turn out essentially. And obviously, constantly having a growth mindset. There's a great book called Mindset by Carol Dweck that I definitely enjoyed. That book talks about like, um, when you're raising kids, you can't just say, oh, you're so smart, you're so talented, like you're such a genius. Like it's more important to say like, hey, like you really worked hard at that, and I'm proud of you for because you worked hard, you're able to get an A on that project, or because you worked so hard, you're able to get first place in that race, or something like that. So just kind of recognizing that, like not thinking that we're just innately born with everything, but it's okay to like work to grow, to improve, to accomplish what we want essentially. And that I'm gonna put another book in there called Grit, a book that I had wished I
Yeah.
had read earlier in my life, and she talks about that too. How um, if she had known that genius wasn't just a genetic thing that people are given at birth, that's actually something you can acquire and work towards to receive, then we can all work to become geniuses in our own way. And so the answer is like constantly having a growth mindset, constantly figuring out, how I can shape my environments to be the best that I can be.
Mm.
And I also, so my wife and I are personal development junkies. And we're like, and like one of the questions that we heard recently is like, what do you think your soul purpose is?
Mm.
And soul as an SOUL.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, I think after doing some reflection, I love bringing joy to the world. I love helping people amplify their own voices and feel empowered for feeling empowered to speak about what they're passionate about. Essentially, I love making people laugh. Love showing more love, and I love leaving the world better than I found it. And so I believe definitely having these mindsets help with various things that's made my life better, more fun, I should say.
Yeah, absolutely. And that book Grit is by Angela Duckworth. It's definitely a classic and I
Yeah.
think really speaks to how to develop that personal sense of fortitude that's going to get you where you want to go. I think that's a great recommendation as well. And what would you say, in terms of the podcasters that you see at Podfest, because there's a large community of creators that attends this in-person event. It's very community based. There's creators of all sizes from all over the US, sometimes even globally, that attend Podfest, and also the podcasters that you work with. What would you say is maybe a mindset or even a metric that makes the biggest impact on their success?
Just to understand the question, what do you think is the mindset needed for successful podcasters, basically?
Yeah. So the creators that you work with, both on the front lines at Podfest and, as someone who supports independent creators with your own business, what are the mindsets? Sorry. What are the key moves or even metrics that make the biggest difference for them as well?
Yeah, so I'll use one example. So Patrick Kelly he's one of our awesome. We call him part of the Pod fam. Anyone who comes to Podfest is in our community of about 25,000 people in our community across our various platforms. So when he came to Podfest originally, he didn't have a show. He didn't know what he was doing. He didn't know what was going on. And he's like, but you know what? I'm going to learn as much as I can, I'm going to implement it as quickly as I can.
Yeah.
And now that he's done that, he has a multi-six-figure show in the produce industry. Like going back to the riches and niches, like who knew you could make multiple six figures off sponsorships talking about apples and bananas and oranges.
Yeah.
And so when
It's
it comes
fascinating. I mean, just quick
right?
side note, if you're eating an apple in a grocery store, it may be over a year old. It may have been refrigerated for over a year. Fun fact. I
Wow.
always think that's
Oh,
so interesting.
I did not
But
know
yeah, I
that.
mean, it's also, I think for many podcasters, people think it's too late. Everything's been done. What am I going to say? Everybody has a podcast already. And that is absolutely not true. And there's still so much to learn. And you can always start from the ground up. And podcasters are some of the most collaborative people as well.
Oh yeah. Oh, that's the beauty about this industry is like how people love connecting with each other and helping each other. And what I like to tell people is, hey, listen, the best time to plant a tree was 20 years ago. Second best time today. And so, yeah, I mean, I'm about 70 episodes into my own podcast. And if I had just started today, like I wouldn't have those 70 episodes under my belt. So the answer is get started today. It's never too late. But yeah, going back to Patrick's example, just like he knew that there's always more to learn about how to like make your show sound better, how to reach bigger guests, like how to fix your media kit. Then once you have a media kit, how do you know how to pitch it to sponsors and investors into your show, essentially? So just like understanding that there's a lot to learn in the space. There's a lot of people who are ready to help you, ready to support you, who want to see you succeed and win. And so definitely don't hesitate to ask any questions about people who are ready to help you, and just like have a mindset, just like always be learning about how you can improve. And Mr. Beast, one of the biggest YouTubers in the world, talks about that. It took him several years just to reach his first 1,000 subscribers, and obviously now he has like 400 million subscribers or something crazy. But he talks about his only goal is how can he make his next video better than the last one. That's all he focuses on. So like for the fellow podcasters out there, just keep thinking about how can you make your next podcast better than your previous one, whether it's better quality, better conversations, better audio effects. Maybe you're able to monetize that next one better than the last one. So I think that will really help a lot with constantly improving your show and the way you create content.
Yes, I think committing to continually improving is a really important tenet of podcasting. It's very easy to rest on the laurels, right? It's very easy to say the show's launched. You get into a routine, which can be a rut sometimes for some creators. You have the formulaic way you do things, and it's always really important to maybe not every single episode change everything, but to check in. How did that feel? What is the response like? What was the bandwidth that it took on my own, personal energy? How much time did it take? I think these are all important considerations. And, if we don't check in with ourselves and our audience and, our guests even, it's something that can really contribute to that pod fade or podcast burnout that we see with so many independent creators that, both of us working on the business side of podcasting really want to avoid, right? We want to minimize pod fade as much as possible because it makes our community smaller. And we know that rising tide is going to lift all of us. And, as podcasters and people within the podcasting and media industry, the larger the industry grows, the more we all benefit.
Yeah, and to speak to PodFade for a couple minutes too. So that is one of the top questions we get asked in our community is how do we prevent podcast burnout? And because another fun fact actually is that if you just do 10 episodes of your podcast, like you're already in the top 40th percentile of all podcasters out there. Because a lot of podcasters, they don't make it past 3 episodes and they don't even make it past 10 episodes. So for those listening, if you haven't started your show yet, just like tell yourself, listen, if I could do just 10 episodes, I'm already in the top percentile of all podcasters out there. And then as far as being consistent goes, so one of the things that help prevent pod fade is make sure you do batch recordings, so that you can record a bunch of episodes or at once to help fill the month or a couple months ahead, so you don't have to stress about how am I going to rearrange my schedule each week, or have consistency with your show. And another thing too is just really making sure that your systems are in place. What I like to tell the clients that I work with when I help them produce their podcast is like, listen, I just want you to worry about showing up, pressing record, press end record, and not worry about anything else.
Yeah.
Because that's the way it should be. Because like, I mean, yeah, Norma and John, like they know how much work it takes to produce a podcast. Like you have to,
Yeah.
yeah.
And you want to make it as easy for people as possible. I think that that's really important because you want the burden to be as light as possible for your guests so that they'll want to share it more, right?
Yeah.
We always tell people like when we send out the link, like, hey, are you available? Here's, the quick description of our show. Here's some notable guests. Here's the link to book a recording within your calendar immediately. And then there's all these automations built in that we built so that, the recording link is there. There's a link to make sure that we capture your bio, all of your social links. We provide a suite of assets. And so it's important to have those systems set up. You're absolutely right. So that pod fade is reduced. And I also think that batch recording is huge, right? I think it's something where there's always going to be those weeks where people aren't available to record and you don't want to be scrambling for a backup episode or a second tier guest or to push through editing that isn't crisp because you just have to get something out because you've told everybody it's a weekly show. I think that's a really important aspect as well. Yeah. Well, Andrew, what is something that people don't know about what you do?
Oh, something that people don't know about what I do. Um, I mean, on top of doing, yeah, director of partnerships, I do a lot of operations behind the scenes as well, as far as like learning how to like manage and run our virtual events. I also do the best to help run the customer service for Podfest. So if people have any inquiries about things they need help with, I'm usually the guy that helps them with things. And yeah, I also run our social media for our various Podfest platforms as well. And so yeah, I mean, let's see. I think that should help summarize a few things. And then yeah, for the masterclass event, for Podfest Masterclass AI and Creator Tool Summit, like I basically produced that summit practically solo. So I guess I could brag on myself a little bit about that. And so,
Yeah.
yeah, so with coordinating all the speakers, with help being a host for each session, with help with coordinating all the recordings, making sure everyone got those. And so, yeah, I guess as people like to say, a little Swiss Army knife kind of things.
Yeah, I think that that's really common within podcasting. And, when you are on the creator side or you're independent creator, you sometimes look at people who are working on the industry side of podcasting. It's like, oh, I'd love to have a job in podcasting. And the reality is a lot of the companies are small and people are wearing multiple hats. And so you really have to have that entrepreneurial spirit. Even when you're working for someone else's business, you have to say, okay, here's my skill set. Here's where I can add value. Here's where I can jump in, chip in extra time, chip in extra value, and help get the company to where we all want it to go because we're still such a young industry in so many ways.
Oh yeah, 100%. Yeah, so I
Yeah.
definitely agree with that.
And especially on the event side, I totally concur with you. I mean, when you're running events, virtual events, in-person events, when people say event planning, that's having 20 jobs in one. And so I think
Yeah,
yeah. And so on that event side, whenever you attend an in-person event, thank the team, even if you
it's a
just
lot
see
of
them,
work.
with a headset on, with a clipboard, just say, you're doing a great job because, you can always tell there are so many wheels turning behind the scenes. And it's usually a group effort with one person kind of as a conductor behind the scenes, really, making sure things happen. And you're never going to know about it if the event runs smoothly.
Yeah, no, it is. I mean, it's what's the Shakespeare term? Like labor of love.
Yeah.
It's definitely labor of love, and
Yeah.
it is nice to hear the compliments, people being grateful and recognizing when the hard work is put in. So we always appreciate that. Yeah,
Yeah. And you have to be a certain kind of person to love events and to really do events.
of course.
It definitely takes a certain kind of person. Well, Andrew, if you had to start over again today, what would you do differently to grow faster or smarter?
Ooh, that's a good question. You know, I think partnerships are always underutilized, as far as like being able to do collaborations with people. I love the quote from Gary Vaynerchuk where he says, "If you never ask, then the answer is always no." And you know, one of the things that's talked about too is like creating like your dream 50 guests you want to have on your show, or like your dream 50 partners you like to collaborate with. And I think, yeah, putting that list together sooner and faster, and not being hesitant to reach out and get those collaborations and partnerships going. I think that really does give a big head start on things. And so that's what's so fun about, yeah, having your own podcast is it's like so like my wife, for example, she's a big Broadway actress, and like her goal of starting her podcast was to interview Audra McDonald someday. And for those who don't know, she's one of the biggest names in the Broadway space, and she's getting closer and
Yeah.
closer to interviewing her each day. But had she not started in the first place having that goal, then she never would have gotten close. So, yeah, as far as doing differently, just like being better about doing more collaborations and partnerships, outreaches as much as you can, as often as you can.
Yeah, that's really common feedback. And thank you so much for sharing, because so many independent creators think, oh, it's just me. I'm by myself. I have this little show. And, you're doing someone a favor. You're giving them your platform. So
Yeah,
there is a
seriously.
great chance that they'll say yes, right? You're creating marketing assets for them. You're helping increase their profile. You're telling their story. And so for everybody out there who's like, oh, me and this little podcast, put your media kit together, make it as professional as possible and shoot your shot, right? I think it's Michael Jordan, you lose 100% of the shots you don't take. So it's definitely an important consideration. Well, Andrew, it's been such a pleasure. Last question. What are you most excited about coming up within the podcasting industry?
Ooh, um, well, this might be what's the word? People might not like this answer, but the evolution of AI, I think, is very exciting, because of the fact that it really can make podcaster lives easier. Like, for example, Cast Magic. All you have to do is upload your raw recording into Cast Magic, and it'll make a LinkedIn post out of the content. It'll tell you all the timestamps. It'll give you great quotes from the episode. It will tell you what to post in your newsletter, tell you what to post on Facebook. And it's obviously wildly evolved since then. But also the fact too that like AI can help you, create podcasts and like different voices, and the fact you can create your own sound with AI, like suno.com. Definitely checking that out. Recommend doing that. Like, we had a talk at our event from Ben Albert, who talks about how he makes a fun song that summarizes each podcast episode that he does with his various guests that come on his show. And it's like a super professional, awesome song. So we're definitely excited for that. And then, yeah, we're actually hosting a VidFest event to help more video creators in August in Atlanta. That's called VidFest Expo. It's like a subdivision of Podfest. But those are definitely some things I'm very excited about.
I think AI is on the cutting edge. And at Podfest Expo, you guys are always doing some really interesting things and building that community. Well, Andrew Weiss, Director of Partnerships at Podfest Expo, thanks for joining us.
Thank you.